Greetings everyone, MSOM 602, coming to you from Delta Flight 166 between Singapore and Tokyo, Japan, on the long journey from Southeast Asia home. Couldn't sleep tonight, so I decided I would just do a video and talk to you a little bit about the second lesson and recap it, and then give you a preview for lesson 3 coming up. Sorry about the quality. It's getting close to dark here, so it's just the overhead light this evening. So hopefully you can hear me. I have the earplugs in so that hopefully you have a little better sound quality. Well, one of the things, just as an aside, over my years in business, it's been great just to see how travel has changed. In the past, when I was in business, in order to communicate with email and things, I had to hope during the time I was at the airport that I could use my phone line and plug into one of those big payphones to be able to transmit information over a dial-up line. And now, again, I've just come off a ship for a couple of weeks, and I was able to use a satellite internet connection, and I'm able to do the same thing now somewhere over the Pacific Ocean or South China Sea on an airplane. So technology is a wonderful thing. Let's talk a little bit about lesson 2. Lesson 2 on the discussion boards, we talked about servant leadership in the workplace. And as I mentioned in the intro last week, we spend so much time in the workplace that it's very, very important that we focus on leadership principles and servant leadership principles in the workplace. Because if we don't do it there, then quite frankly, we're missing a very big opportunity. So I enjoyed reading the discussions on this. I encourage you to continue to develop your discussion board techniques. Take a look at the video that I posted to talk about that as well. Make sure that I call them substantive posts, but make sure they have levels of detail in them, supported opinion, and do things that will extend the conversation. So again, discussion 2 is on servant leadership in the workplace. Enjoyed reading your memo exercises. I always like those because when we start talking about servant leadership, you really get the communication style of the student. Some of you did these and you wrote them like a paper, and I want to encourage you not to do that going forward. There's no reason to cite anything. Again, this is just something that you need to have as a inter-office memo. So put it in your language, and the language that you can use to communicate to the people in your department or the people in your organization. Of course, project was also do the outline for part 1. For the most part, you did a good job with those. Make sure that you take a look at my comments on those. You had some things, some of you had some things that you omitted that I thought you would need, so take a look at those. One of the things I want to note, there's no reason once you change those to ever send them to me again, because these are just designed for your purposes to guide your project as you go forward. I have students in the past who like to attach them to part 2 and part 3. You don't have to do that. So just use them as your roadmap for the rest of the course project when you submit part 2 and part 3. Now, coming up in lesson 3, you're introduced to Larry Spears. Larry Spears is sort of the modern-day Greenleaf in the servant leadership concepts. And Spears developed 10 characteristics of servant leadership. And I just love these, quite frankly. I really like what they talk about. I like what they speak to. And so what I'm wanting you to do this week is to take a look at all 10. We're going to go in them over the next few lessons in different levels and talk to them in much more detail. But as an overview, take a look at all 10 of them this week. And then what I want you to do, it's going to be hard, but what I want you to do is pick your top 5 And I'm not so much interested in which ones you pick. I'm more interested in why you picked the ones you picked. And so make sure that you have some reasons behind these. I'll tell you at the end of lesson 3 which 5 I picked. Again, it doesn't make mine right and yours wrong, but I'll tell you the reasons why I picked the 5 that I picked. This week you have 2 case studies. The first case study is from Colleen Barrett and Ken Blanchard. Colleen Barrett is the past CEO of Southwest Airlines, and Southwest Airlines is very well known for their focus on employees and their focus on leadership principles. And so the book that I have in the ebook here, Lead with Love, is a conversation. It's really a unique book because it's really a conversation between Colleen Barrett and Ken Blanchard. Ken Blanchard's one of the leaders in the same vein that Larry Spears is in servant leadership. And so I just love the way that the book is set up. It's so anti-textbook. And you know me, by this time I'm kind of anti-textbook. But Colleen Barrett and Ken Blanchard have a wonderful discussion to talk about servant leadership principles, and in particular how it was with Southwest Airlines. I would encourage you to look at the videos this week. There's a video from Ms. Barrett at a university, and you get a lot of the underlying message is brought out in that video. So that's the first case study this week. And then the second case study is one that I always like because the students can really relate to it. Anybody who's ever been to the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, to get your license renewed or to get new plates for your car or automobile have run into issues, and the DMV is notorious for being government gridlock at its finest. But what happened in this story is Ken Blanchard relays to you a message of how a manager at a DMV took a much different approach. And so it's really, really an interesting read, and so I'm asking you to take a look at it and analyze it. Just don't repeat what happened in it, but talk to me about the principles that manager employed that are servant leadership focused, so that people who came into that particular DMV had a much different experience than ones that you may traditionally find. And the key on this one, I think, is to provide, again, some real-world applications that you may be able to take forward and understand that all of us have the opportunity, responsibility to develop those types of leadership strategies as we go forward, whether it's a small department, whether it's a team of 2, whether it's a big department, whether it's with fellow employees or whether it's with the public. And so, again, I love the DMV example there. Okay, hope you all have a great week. And if you have any questions, comments, you know how to get in touch with me. And I would encourage you to shoot those to me. And in the meantime, keep studying. Talk to you soon.